Welcome to Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. We head towards the end of the year with a lot of stock take to do in terms of how businesses have responded towards the pandemic and how we need to move ahead on understanding what 2021 can bring for many companies around the country. One such company that is assisting other companies is, of course, Dattel Asia Group, whom we have had earlier before the pandemic started. And they are, of course, a consumer analytics company focusing on the business of data as well as understanding what those data mean. Very recently, they have launched an item where it's called the UPLIFT Malaysia program, where they can assist up to 10,000 businesses in and around the country as well as in ASEAN on consumer data and analytics. And while this, on one hand, is interesting to be told in terms of how companies can use data, there's a lot of other issues, issues like privacy, security concerns, and many others surrounding it is, of course, going to be paramount. So here to understand this topic a little bit better, I have with me Ashran Ghazi, who is the CEO of Dattel Asia, here to talk about this item. Let's talk a little bit about the program, Dattel.
So as you mentioned, we just kickstarted this initiative called UPLIFT Malaysia. And the running theme essentially is about uplifting businesses and empowering them with data, essentially. And what we're putting on the table to businesses out there is that, in light of all the uncertainties and so forth, there is a need to just have some clarity and guidance in terms of how things are changing within the market and how they can capitalize for their recovery, not just immediate short-term recovery, but hopefully a sustainable recovery.
Okay, what kind of data that is going to be given to these companies if they join this program?
So we're focused on about consumer behaviors. Our core has always been trying to understand consumer behaviors holistically. So for any businesses that is actually consumer facing, this is where we hope that we're able to help them, give them that better insights with regards to their prospective customers, essentially. And if I can add on a little bit, Ibrahim, what we've done, while we've been serving a lot of larger companies prior to this, and I think we had this chat many moons ago also, talking about data is fine and dandy, sexy to some extent, but when you're talking to small, medium businesses in particular, there are other challenges too, right? So the ability to give data only may not be enough. So what we've done within UPLIFT is that we've packaged together access to data and also a hand-holding program so that they can look at pivoting their business to profitability.
What do you mean by consumer analytics? What is it that is being gotten by these kind of companies?
It's for them to understand, number one, are their existing customers still the same? So most businesses will start saying that, my customer is male, female, age of a certain group, and they stop there, or maybe at an income level at a very basic demographic layer. But what we're trying to power them up is that you may have customers right now. Let's look at the data to see whether are your customers still the same or not. Are there shrinks within the market landscape itself? Are there any other consumer segment because of behavioral changes within this current period that they could be leveraging and tapping onto?
Do you have any ideas on what kind of sectors could benefit this most in terms of using these kind of analytics?
Any businesses that are consumer facing, that means you're selling directly to the consumers. So if you are in the F&B business, if you are producing F&B products, if you're in the services F&B also, if you're selling healthcare, beauty products, anything that touches directly with the consumers, that's where businesses will find relevancy with regards to this data per se.
I want to know how this data is going to be helpful for the businesses in a way where they might not be able to get this kind of data elsewhere? In fact, where do you get this data from?
Good question there. So for us, the data that we capture is a first-party data at our end. So it's not an aggregation from multiple sources per se. Our process in terms of ensuring that the quality of data is really good for businesses to use. Number one, we start by curating X thousand of people that is representative in Malaysia. They download our app. We then ask questions, we then track their movements, we then track their app usage. And these data sets that comes back to us is what the team then processes and puts them on a dashboard that we will give access to the businesses essentially. So that's our process of collecting that data in order to be able to do that. And when we study consumers, Ibrahim, we study consumers from all aspects of their life. And the power of understanding consumers, all aspects of your life, is that you'll be able to look at different nuances. A business that says, I think I want to create a healthy product. But when you ask them, what's the size of the population in Malaysia that is addressable from a healthy product per se, they'll probably say, oh, we're going to target probably age this group because and income level this group because we think that that's the lifestyle that people are going. But what we can actually tell folks out there is that if you're looking at male or female within a certain group and you've got some behavioral types of people that you think will resonate with your product, then we can actually narrow that down for you so that you know how to target these guys better, you know how to communicate with them better, or you know how to even perhaps design your product better to be able to fit this particular group. So that's the power that we want to give to businesses out there. And one may be wondering, for a small business especially, right, whether is this going to be too much for me? Am I going to be able to understand any of this at all? So we've actually again, we've kickstarted the program. We've engaged with SMEs also, and everyone will be surprised at the level of hunger that most businesses are for data for them to be able to kind of have that comfort level to make decisions. The only problem that most people have is accessibility to it. I don't know where I can get this kind of data. And when we showed them the platform and the dashboard that we have to SMEs, you can see their eyes like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. Or I thought it was this, but what the data is showing is something else. And their reaction is always that, oh, aku tak tahu lah sebelum ni mana nak dapat data ni. In terms of that kind of depth that you can go to. The next thing that was prevalent is that, yes, I want this data, but I've not been trained. I don't know how to apply it. I see these things, but how do I apply it to my business? How do I leverage this? Because at the end of the day, looking at data is one thing, having access to it is one thing, but can I make a difference to my business by using this data?
Okay, you were mentioning that this is a 50 million ringgit data fund. Does it mean that this is a government grant given to the TEL to help the businesses, or is there still going to be a cost for the businesses to access this kind of data?
All right, fair question. So this is a private sector initiative. So what we've done in Dattel is actually we've partnered with a few like-minded people who wants to also look at supporting other businesses around us. So we've got Brickfields Asia College on board as a talent development partner. We've got Zebra on board as a research analytics partner so that they can train, handhold the SMEs. We've got Transcosmos as our customer experience partner that will help manage the flow and funnel that's coming in. We do have support from the Ministry of Entrepreneur and InScan, but from a community perspective. But from a financial side, it is actually driven by the few partners from the private sector that I mentioned just now. The programming structure is done that for you to get access to 1 month of data, for you to get access of a 14-day pivot to profit program, hand-holding program, so that you can apply data to your business. You just got to apply. And if you qualify, the total value is actually 5,500 ringgit. Because as I mentioned to you before, we were selling the products and the data that we have to larger companies. But under UPLIFT, what we're offering out to businesses out there is that only for 499 ringgit, you're able to unlock that 5,000 ringgit. So you're getting like a grant from the collective private sector business that we've brought on board.
Okay, the thing about selling data is that privacy is going to be a big concern, and you were mentioning that this data is attained through first-party data. How do I, as an individual, myself, with my username and my privacy and my movement, my track and all that, how is it going to be assured that you're not selling my data to the company for 5,000 bucks?
Got it. So from a business perspective, we are not in a database selling business. So that one, everyone's got to be very clear, right? I'm not interested in trying to sell Ibrahim Sani's details as Ibrahim Sani to somebody else. What we do is actually we're trying to understand Ibrahim Sani and anyone else that behaves like Ibrahim Sani and give that insights and perspective to businesses out there so that they know how to talk to Ibrahim Sani better, so that they can know how to find Ibrahim Sani better and address the needs and wants of Ibrahim Sanis out there, essentially. I said so many Ibrahim Sanis in that just short phrase, man.
You make me sound like Trump, but honestly, is there a mechanism that can be put in place? You know, are you being overseen by some regulatory body to a point where we're making sure that you don't overstep the boundaries?
Right. Well, there's no regulatory body per se, short of just having the PDPA laws in place. But for us, so we self-regulate ourselves simply because this is our core business. We cannot afford for, number one, privacy issues is compromised because it's core. If that's compromised, then the whole business crumbles. So we self-regulate ourselves. I've got a governance unit within the company that looks at how data management is done from the time data comes in and how it passes through within different divisions within the organization to ensure that security aspect and the privacy aspect is there. It's a different play when somebody is doing data and they're trying to sell other services with data. And they're trying to use data to kind of get to that actual individual itself. So our modeling is slightly different. Governance and self-regulation is at utmost importance. Quality is of utmost importance because if they can't get the results from the data that they kind of get insights from, then I can't do business.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Ashran. If people want to know more, where do they go to find out more about this?
All they need to do is go to uplift.dattel.asia. All the information is going to be there, and they can just click on the link, a button to apply, and the process will take its course essentially, and they can capture that benefit. And just to share with you, we've got the first cohorts of people that has actually come on board the program, and it's been amazing. They've got deltas of conversion over a day or two just by applying new strategies. From a 2% conversion to 5% conversion by just shifting the perspective of how they see consumers. And we want to be able to empower that to more and more people. And that's the aspiration that we have with UPLIFT Malaysia, essentially.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us today. If you want to learn more about this kind of conversation, you can just head on to astro.com, look for Notepad over there. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about the Sharia Audit Conference that I have moderated very recently and some of the interesting ideas that have been unearthed in that conference. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. This is Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. As promised, we will be talking about the Sharia Audit Conference, where I have had illustrious conference speakers talking about the need and the importance for us to rethink about how we do Sharia audit. Here are some of the conversations that took place in that conference. Enjoy.
Some of the issues faced are the inconsistencies in screening methods across different countries and organizations, having too many different methodologies at cost and in the long run could hamper the growth of Islamic finance. Non-compliance with Sharia principles poses an area of risk that could translate into legal, image, and reputational risks, which have far-reaching consequences for the Islamic financial system. Stakeholders also want to ensure that companies in which they have an interest in are complying with the Sharia requirements and are managed responsibly. There is a growing awareness, especially among Islamic institutions, of the importance of Sharia audit in contributing towards achieving the objectives of Maqasid al-Sharia. Getting Sharia audit into the mainstream is an initiative that ensures compliance and maintains the credibility of Islamic finance among stakeholders. It will provide stakeholders with greater independence of Sharia assurance. Moreover, the scope of conventional financial audit is inadequate to fulfill the needs of stakeholders when it comes to adhering to Sharia principles in business transactions and operations. They will also lack the skills to audit large numbers of transactions for Sharia compliance. The assurance of Sharia compliance through the audit function is fundamental in upholding the integrity of any institution at large. It also promotes a diverse role in improving the competitiveness of the institutions through effective mitigation of Sharia non-compliance risk and embracing Sharia culture within the institution itself. Sharia audit is conducted with a purpose to add value and improve on the governance, risk management, and compliance with business operations, mainly focusing on the objective of ensuring a sound and effective internal control system. In this instance, the Sharia Supervisory Board and Sharia Auditor play a significant role in ensuring the institution operates in accordance with Sharia rulings. It has been argued that the role of financial reporting and auditing should not be confined to the needs of investor decision-making, but should be viewed with more focus on corporate governance. With Sharia governance being the bedrock of Islamic finance, it upholds the principles of good corporate governance. It can universally extend beyond Islamic finance to all industries to ensure best practices are adopted in the management and operations of companies, whether sole proprietorship, cooperatives, GLCs, PLCs, or financial institutions alike. As a next step, introducing an appropriate Sharia audit framework will help in creating robustness in the industry. It is crucial for external Sharia auditors for the Islamic financial institutions to remain independent and transparent and avoid internal Sharia auditors auditing their own products and operations. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the importance of Sharia audit, there has been little understanding of its implementation towards an effective and efficient Sharia audit from the human capital perspective. And this brings me to the third part of my address on the need to boosting talent in Sharia audit. In Malaysia, the current focus is primarily on internal Sharia audit, which has raised several debates on its independence and numerous challenges, including the limited availability of qualified resources, have prevented the successful implementation of external Sharia audits. In terms of industry experience, a 2013 study highlights that only 5.9% of auditors are qualified in both fields of Sharia and accounting. Out of these Sharia auditors, only 69% practice Sharia auditing in Islamic financial institutions. The scarce resource of both Sharia and auditing qualifications, as well as the lack of experience, pose a threat to Sharia audit independence, which may adversely affect the integrity of organizations. Moreover, the competency requirements for Sharia auditors have yet to be fully developed. In this regard, the call to fill this gap needs to gain more attention. In Malaysia, for example, there are only a few local universities that offer Sharia audit as part of the subject in accounting courses. And more notably, only University of Science Islam Malaysia offers a course specialized in Sharia audit. And wearing my other hat as the chairman of University Kebangsaan Malaysia, perhaps we will get UKM to go towards that route as well. On top of that, professional training is scarce since there are only a few local training agencies that provide professional certification for Sharia audit practitioners. Professional qualifications such as the Certified Professional Sharia Auditor or CPSA offered by IFM is essential in developing the required pool of Sharia auditors in line with the aspirations of meeting regulatory requirements. Such certification does not only augment the existing skill sets of the auditors, but has the potential to professionalize the role into a new profession. Since its launch, CPSA has produced 36 certified holders to serve the industry. CPSA has also received full accreditation from the Financial Accreditation Agency in efforts to ensure the certification meets industry and quality professional learning and development in the financial services industry. The recognition of CPSA as a professional program by the Ministry of Higher Education through its Graduate Employability Initiative has yielded significant results. Through this initiative, over 300 financial year undergraduates from 13 public universities throughout the nation have enrolled for the certification. The Islamic finance industry has also played a commendable part towards upskilling and reskilling talent within the Islamic financial institutions. Currently, more than 100 personnel from 11 Islamic banks in Malaysia are enrolled in this certification. The Malaysian Institute of Accountants, MIA, must help facilitate the implementation of a comprehensive and integrated Sharia auditing framework to cater for the ever-increasing number of Islamic financial institutions in Malaysia and globally. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a considerable growth potential for firms to offer Sharia auditing services to institutions outside Malaysia as part of the country's Islamic finance ancillary services. However, issues in terms of Sharia auditing standards, qualifications, and independence need to be resolved for the smooth development of the Islamic finance industry.
So that was the conference that took place very recently. If you want to learn more about that conference, just head on to the Malaysian Institute of Accountants website or the IPFIM website to find out more. We're also going to put up the conference in its entirety on our website at restaurant.com. Till then, thanks very much for watching and goodbye.